find a place to live. Folks are downright friendly, and the dogs they seldom bite. And you can hear the crickets sing in your yard most every night. You don't have to be a man with money in your jeans. All you need is a friendly smile, and you'll see what I mean. You can live out in the country, or you can locate here in town. But if you stay a little while, I'm sure you'll stick around. Water down in Blue Hole is clear most all the time.
It was a dream, an idea conceived by local resident sculptor Mel Fowler. In 1976, it became one community family's endeavor, an international sculpture garden.
You don't have to be a man with money in your jeans. All you need is a friendly smile, and you'll see what I mean. You can live out in the country, or you can locate here in town. But if you stay a little while, I'm sure you'll stick around. There's a couple of stores and a sweet shop and a P.O. to do your mail. But what I understand, the movie house is doing well. The jet age can just pass us by, 'cause we all take our time. Don't just smell the roses, stop and pick one from the vine. You don't have to be a man with money in your jeans. All you need is a friendly smile, and you'll see what I mean. You can live out in the country, or you can locate here in town. But if you stay a little while, I'm sure...
30 miles north of Austin will soon be the site of a permanent $1 million sculpture park. An international sculptor symposium is underway in Liberty Hill, bringing a touch of the fine arts to a small community where before stone was used only as building material. An international sculpture symposium is a relatively new idea and is a gathering of sculptors from around the world who go to a location and carve or build monumental-sized sculptures. The Liberty Hill Symposium is the first in the Southwest and was proposed by resident sculptor Mel Fowler. 25 internationally known sculptors accepted invitations to come to Liberty Hill, and the formal opening of the symposium was a festive affair. Everyone in town, including all the schools, turned out for the raising of flags representing the countries which sent sculptors to the event. The symposium is being sponsored by the newly formed Liberty Hill Cultural Affairs Council and is being financed without state or federal aid. The sculptors are living in as house guests of Liberty Hill residents during their 7-week stay in Texas. They spend long-hour workdays whittling away at the gigantic chunks of stone donated by Texas Quarries, Texas Granite Corporation, and Billborough Marble Company.
Don't just smell the roses, stop and pick one from the vine.
Some of the sculptors speak no English, although a big smile like that of Japan's Mihama Yoshinao is an international language in itself. Canada has 2 representatives at the symposium. Harry Nordhook said he came down to help celebrate the bicentennial. His free-flowing piece will represent the fluidity of life. The other Canadian, Dieter Hestenteufel, came on a grant from the Canadian Council for the Arts. His piece will demonstrate impact and movement in stone and metal as shown in the model. The finished piece will stand more than 6 feet high. Liberty Hill residents feel the symposium will benefit not only the town and the visiting sculptors, but students and artists for generations to come. Concerned citizens like James Vaughan, Mac Williamson, Charlie Carlisle, Ellis Posey, and many others feel that the time, effort, and money donated to the project will be returned in cultural exchange and artistic appreciation. Student groups from around the state and many individuals drop by to see the artists at work and even to chat with some of them. Frenchmen Jean-Louis Marc-Moët and Jean-Paul Philippe are enthusiastic about the symposium, since most sculptors who want to work in a large scale are handicapped by the high cost of materials and shipping. Many of the foreign sculptors came to Liberty Hill without even a change of clothes in order to bring their tools and still comply with airline baggage weight regulations. The need for clothing is being handled by Liberty Hill residents, especially for winter clothing, since the symposium continues until the end of November. Italian Renato Mari is one of those who speaks some English, having learned it in about 10 days. Mari said his work will represent many people in many situations. He said the publicity resulting from an international symposium is beneficial to the sculptor's career and often helps him find lifelong patrons. 15 of the 25 sculptors are Americans. Duff Brown of Austin has named his piece Two Faces of Man, yet he says it is not symbolic, but merely an interpretive abstract. Dana Smith, who teaches sculpture at El Centro College in Dallas, said her block of stone doesn't know what it's an extension of what she is trying to say. Dolores Cumley of Austin works in concrete and has a deep interest in fluid form, light, and shadow. Her creation will be big enough for children to play in and is what she calls a fun piece. All of the finished pieces will be donated to Liberty Hill by the sculptors and will be moved to the First International Sculpture Park of the South, a small acreage plot which was donated to the town. A formal dedication is planned for the park when the monumental pieces are placed early next year. Meanwhile, it's time out for lunch and a little fellowship. The sculptors have morning and evening meals with their hosts, but the noon feed bag is tied on by local organizations and churches. And although the food is strictly Texan, at the Liberty Hill Sculpture Symposium, it still has an international...
Carrying an unusual cargo. Williamson County road crews usually haul heavy equipment on the trailer, but now the rig carried pieces of sculpture to a new home on the campus of the Liberty Hill High School. 72-year-old James Vaughan was there to record the move on his new videotape camera, just as he was more than a decade ago when he used an 8mm to document the creation of the sculptures by artists from France, West Germany, Italy, Japan, Canada, and Poland, as well as from the far corners of the U.S.
If I was to try to do a piece of stone like this, I can imagine what it'd end up looking like. So their technique and their abilities are what more or less intrigue me.
The artists had come to Vaughan's small town for a bicentennial symposium at the invitation of its organizer, resident Liberty Hill sculptor Mel Fowler. But if it hadn't been for Vaughan, Fowler would have taken the artists to the big city.
I was talking to the city of Austin about the possibility of conducting a symposium on Town Lake. And I casually mentioned that to James Vaughan, and James said, "For goodness sakes, Mel, why do you want to do it in Austin for? You live in Liberty Hill, so why don't you do it in Liberty Hill?"
As a result, the people of Liberty Hill welcomed the visitors into their homes, even cooking their meals for them for 2 months.
But then, of course, all the hoopla finally died down. And the sculptures were left to, rot, more or less, in a field full of scrub brush, weeds, and even a bunch of old, rusting metal.
And finally, the inevitable occurred, a case of vandalism. So, when the Liberty Hill School Board agreed to make room for the sculptures at the town's new high school, no one was more pleased than James Vaughan.
It's unbelievable, let's put it that way. Just tickles the heck out of me.
May 5th, the new sculpture park will be dedicated. The townspeople and many of the original artists will be there. James Vaughan will be there too, with his camera. In Liberty Hill, Jim Swift, News 36.
The stars at night are big and bright. Deep in the heart of Texas, the prairie sky is wide and high. Deep in the heart of Texas, the coyotes wail along the trail. Deep in the heart of Texas, the rabbits rush around the brush. Deep in the heart.
The Liberty Hill Garden Club became involved when they made a 10-year commitment to landscape the new high school campus.
Well, sage in bloom is like perfume. Deep in the heart of Texas, the cowboys cry, yippee-hi. Deep in the heart of Texas.
What you see here is phase one, their first year's effort. The planning began in the sculpture garden and will encompass the 25-acre tract in 10 years.
Along the trail, deep in the heart of Texas, the rabbits rush around the brush. Deep in the heart of Texas. Well, sage in bloom is like perfume. Deep in the heart of Texas,